If you don't know the changes of the new tax laws, doing your own taxes this year could be very expensive. Dr. Plummer, now a retired educator with more than 30 years of tax preparation experience, can help you with your tax. Any of his friendly staff will help you with the new tax laws. They know how to get every credit and every deduction. Get your refund check within 8 to 14 days or have it directly deposited into your account. Dr. Plummer, a member of the National Association of Tax Professionals. Call 275-0092.
Hello everybody, I'm Pilar Archila, your Pure Gold host, and I'm sitting here with Mr. Bob Walker. Actually, I met him when I first moved to Dublin. He was our mayor. Yeah. And from that point on, since we moved in 1996, we met and we became friends, and it's been a good 18, almost 19 years.
Yeah, I've enjoyed knowing you and your family
Yes.
and all those boys.
Yes, I enjoy meeting your wife and also your son and your family. You have a very nice family.
Thank
How
you.
are you today, Bob?
Real good. Feel good.
Before we went on the air, I was talking to Bob about how we met, and it was kind of interesting. Back in '96, I moved to Dublin, and to my surprise, Dublin didn't have a Spanish channel and the cable.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm going to go and talk to the cable company. And I did. I talked to them, and they said to me, well, apparently there is no interest in Spanish in Dublin, Georgia. I told them, if I show you that there is interest, would you consider having one of the Spanish channels? And they told me, if you can prove that there is interest. Here I was, knowing absolutely no one in Dublin. I decided to go and visit the mayor. And I told him that I wanted to start like a petition. And I asked him if he would sign my petition. And he did. And that's how we met. He signed my petition. And with his signature, somebody that everybody knew, I went all over Dublin and the Mexican restaurant. I went to my church, and I waited outside my church on Sundays asking people to sign my petition, my priest. And after 3-4 months, I went back to Charter with my huge petition, and they sent me a letter a month later saying that, yes, beginning January 1st, 1997, we were going to have one Spanish channel. And as we speak, now we have 2.
Right.
So we're still going strong. And there is a lot of people who watch.
Yeah. Well, I had a similar experience in 2000, right after the election of 2000. And I went to Atlanta because my wife was in the hospital, and I started watching TV, and I saw Fox News. And Fox News was giving a different side of the story than people were getting in Dublin on CNN and ABC, NBC,
Right.
CBS about the results of the election.
Exactly.
When George Bush and Al Gore had just had the vote. So we started a campaign to get people to call, not sign, but to call the TV station
And request.
and request Fox
Yes.
News be added, and that was successful.
Yes.
And so now we've got a good balance. You can switch from one to the
Right,
other.
so you can see and you can hear 2 different stories.
Yeah.
There is always 2 different stories to everything.
Right.
Yeah, well, thanks to you for signing that. We can enjoy the news and everything in Spanish for the people who would like to hear that. And for those who would like to learn Spanish, just watch, and you'll see. If I learn English watching in English TV, why not the other way around? Bob, are you from Lawrence County?
Well, I grew up in Macon, finished high school at a mandatory military ROTC high school, Lanier High School in Macon, and immediately after graduating, we moved to Dublin because my mother married down here.
Ah, I see.
My dad had died when I was 10, and she was a widow for 7 years, and then she married Walter Waldrop in Dublin. And, we moved to Dublin.
You moved to Dublin. That's where you met your wife, or you met her in Macon?
No, I met my wife in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Ah.
Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps over at Beaufort at the Marine Air Station. And she was a school teacher who had just graduated from college and had come to Beaufort to teach elementary school. Mm-hmm. So the bachelor officers had a party for the new crop of school teachers.
Oh, wow.
And I met her that night.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And then later on, when you got married, decided to move back to Dublin?
Yeah, we decided we wanted to live here. No question about that.
Yes. Well, you see, you made a great choice.
Yep. It's been good to us.
It's been wonderful. So what kind of business are you involved with, or what kind of business have you been involved with?
Well, as soon as I got out off active duty in the Marine Corps, we came back to Dublin, and I got into the farm machinery business.
Ah.
And I sold tractors and balers and combines and irrigation and bush hogs and all these things for about 20 years. Uh-huh. And then I sold out to New Holland Machine Company. And we started, about that time, we started an IBM PC business when IBM PCs just came out on the market.
I see. We
did that for a while. And all of that time, I was building many warehouses. And so all of a sudden, I realized that's my main business because this thing had grown up slowly, and surprisingly, it was the
getting
best
bigger
income producer of everything.
Yes.
So then my employees wanted to buy the computer business, so I got busy building more warehouses.
Yes, so you have mainly...
That's my business and my retirement business because it doesn't require full-time every day.
To be on top of, all the time.
That's right.
At what point in your life you consider being the mayor of Dublin?
Well, in 1969, some people wanted me to run for the city council, and I did that and served 4 years, 70 to 74.
A councilman.
City councilman. And then my children were getting up to the age where they needed to play ball and after-school activities, so I didn't do anything until the late 80s when they finished high school.
Yes.
And then I ran for mayor and did that for 8 years.
Yes. Yeah, and that was about the time we moved to Dublin. You were the mayor of Dublin.
Yep.
So you've been a councilman, and I know you also have been very involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah,
I've served many times on the Chamber of Commerce board, and the first time was when the chamber was down in the City Hall.
Uh-huh.
And Ms. Ann Brandon was the secretary, and she was the only staff person there. So she gave information to people who came into town and stopped in the chamber. But it was not extremely active and didn't have a very big budget. And then we moved over to the house on Bellevue where Barry Walker's insurance company is now.
Right.
And that must have been somewhere around 1980, late 70s, maybe early 80s. And we had the man who had been the CEO at the VA hospital, Harold Duncan, had just retired, and he wanted to be involved in the community, and so it was a good fit that he was hired to be the chamber director, executive director at that time, which later evolved into the president. And as Willie is now.
Right.
And then,
so just before Willie, he was the president?
Yeah, well, then there was W.L. Wilkes. W.L. was retired from Georgia Power, and Harold was ready to step down, and so W.L. stepped in about the time the chamber bought the Morris House, which is where
is right now?
It is now, and moved across the street and renovated that house.
That is gorgeous.
And so W.L. Wilkes was the one who led the effort to get it renovated and then paid for, which was a big deal.
That's important.
Yeah. So he did that from, it must have been about mid-'80s to about 1990, and he was going to move down to Shellman Bluff for his retirement. And that's when Willie Park came into the picture, somewhere around 1990.
About 1990.
And she's been here
since then.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful with her.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Bob, we're going to take a short break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm here with Bob Walker, and we're talking about a little bit of everything. You mentioned in the beginning the Waldrop family.
Right.
Your mother married Mr. Waldrop. Right. I do know that at the Chamber of Commerce, at the McGrath-Keane, they have a picture of Mr.
Of the two brothers
two brothers together.
Right.
What relation, besides, your mother, Mary, Mr. Waldrop, how is your relation with the brothers and the family? And
well, in later years, they asked me to be administrator of estates and caretaker for Frank Waldrop's widow and daughter. So they were, this was somewhere around 1990, and Frank Waldrop died in 1986.
Okay.
And so I did that after that, and looking after that part of the family. And then Walter Waldrop was, my mother married him in 1954.
Oh.
And then we had a great relationship through the years, and he was a great grandfather to my children.
Yes.
And so he died in 1998. Yeah.
In 98?
So we had all this family time between 54 and 98.
Yes, that is.
And he had a young son that he had adopted. So I have a stepbrother. And Alan Waldrop and I grew. I was 12 years older, so we didn't grow up together, but we've had a wonderful relationship over the years.
Yes, yeah, it was like kind of, Did your mother had children with him?
No. She was older by this time that they married.
Oh, okay. So basically, it was your family. It was like his family, too. Plus his son.
Yeah. Well, he had this child that was 5 years old, and he needed my mother to come down here and help him raise Alan. So that worked out very well.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Why, in your own opinion, you think that is a good idea for a small, medium, or large company to belong to the Chamber of Commerce?
Well, the Chamber of Commerce was and Development Authority were instrumental in many of the industries moving to Dublin.
Yes.
And then expanding in Dublin. And that's a big thing, too, because not only getting them here, but making them want to expand the operation here. And then businesses that individuals like me start, it's just good, smart business to be involved in the community.
Right.
And do things like business after hours, where you network with people.
With other
And
people.
these people become your customers.
Yes.
And so I'd recommend everybody to do that. Also, another good part of the thing is to shop at home.
Yes.
And
Always shop at home.
and everybody support the community in
Yes.
every way that they can.
You know, when you mention companies moving in and expanding, comes through my mind YKK.
Oh, yeah.
And I do know that there is a very good relationship between you and YKK and you and Japan and Dublin and Japan. Would you?
Well, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was stationed there for a year and a half and lived there. And so I became knowledgeable about the Japanese culture.
Yes.
And that kind of stayed latent in my background and in the back of my mind until the late 80s when YKK bought the 200 acres out on Fatai Road. And we started having meetings with them and social events with them. And I really enjoyed remembering a little bit of language that I knew.
Exactly.
And greeting them in Japanese, and they, oh, you know Japanese.
Yeah.
And then I got back studying some more, and so many things came back, you know, and that had been latent for 30 years.
And how the sister city came about?
Well, then after YKK became a corporate citizen here, and we came to know each other, and I was the mayor at that time. We had contact with Sambangi's mayor. Mm-hmm. He came over, and some of the executives with YKK from the Tohoku plant in Sambangi came over.
Yes.
And we decided that it would be good to have a sister city relationship, and sponsored by YKK.
That is great.
They invited some of us to go to Japan, and that was my first trip back. And we signed a sister city agreement over
Right.
there. And that agreement
Was it Mayor Sato? Mayor Sato was
Sato.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor Sato. And so he and I signed this agreement there
Yep.
in Sambangi in 1998.
All right. Well, let's continue that story when we return from a commercial, and we'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm here with Bob Walker. We're talking about Sambangi, Japan, YKK, and the students. I was fortunate to be one of the chaperones that went to Japan and visit that wonderful country and amazing culture.
Right.
And so I understand that we kind of exchange,
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about, Mayor Sato and I and the YKK people over there in Sambangi in 98, was that we established this student exchange.
Right.
And that got off on a great start, and then we had around 6 students and some chaperones come here from Japan, and next summer we'd have about 6 go back, and that's
Right.
been going on,
For several
Since-
years.
yes, since 99.
Yes.
Since
Yes.
99. So there's been a lot of host families that have gotten to know students.
And a
that
lot of
came here.
friendship
A lot of friendship.
because of that.
Long-term friendship.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mayor Sato and I have been friends for a long time.
Yes.
As well as some of the executives with YKK that we exchange Christmas cards and greetings
Exactly.
and so forth.
I still receive.
So I was a chaperone with my wife in year before last. In,
Right.
In
Actually, you went with
2012.
my
Yeah.
nephew.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so 2012, we went over as chaperones with 6 students and renewed all those relationships again.
Absolutely. Well, that is amazing, Bob. You know, when I sit with you and I talk with you, we can just sit for hours and hours. Maybe you have to come back so we can continue talking.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. And to all of you, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, thanks.